I think if you're open to adapting and changing your business model, you've got to be swift. You've got to be ready to move in the direction that the market's moving, because if you don't, you're going to get stuck, you're going to get lost, and then your clients are going to feel it as well. So it's a balancing act. It's walking that tightrope and not dropping anything.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tailored Property Wealth Podcast. My name is Casey Taylor, and on this episode today, we have Evan Reid joining us from Neo Finance. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
No worries, man. The podcast cherry too, first one.
Absolutely. Podcast virgin.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess today we're just going to talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, how we kind of work together as well to mutually help clients, essentially investing in property for what we work together with, but you do a lot of things with Neo Finance. So yeah, it's going to be a good episode for everyone to kind of listen to and get to know you and go from there.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Cool. So I guess tell me a little bit about who Neo Finance is, who you are, and like what your background is prior to starting Neo.
Yeah, so Neo Finance Group is a mortgage brokerage.
Yeah.
And we specialize in a few different things, mainly investors and owner occupiers and things like that. But we sort of have a range of services that we offer. So we can essentially help anyone that's wanting to buy their first home, their fifth home, under a different structure, whether that's a company, trust, or self-managed super fund.
Yeah.
And then we've also opened our separate division, which focuses on business and asset finance too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And what's your background? What did you do prior?
Yeah, so big background in finance and lending.
Yeah.
I spent probably almost 13, 14 years working for the major banks.
Yep.
A smaller financial institution as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so mainly in leadership and also in the lending aspect.
Yeah, which go hand in hand for being a business owner.
Yeah, it's
as a broker.
definitely set myself up for success.
Yeah.
I think when I've done all those leadership roles and lending roles, you learn what is good, what's not good, how to service your clients, and you essentially become an expert in that field.
And I think it's good as a mortgage broker to know how some of the banks work from a service point of view, but just like the mechanics in the background and some of the frustrations and timelines and all the rest of it. I obviously have a finance background as well, and just that having that knowledge, even for what I do, which is obviously a little bit different to the mortgage broking, it gives you that foundational knowledge for sure. Hey,
it definitely does. Seeing with all the different banks that we have in Australia, there's over 60, and each of them have different processing times, different policies, different ways that they structure their loans, which is good in a way where it essentially means you can help anyone.
And that's a good thing about not just working directly with one lender. You got one door that you can go through with like some very strict policies with this one lender, whereas as soon as you're a mortgage broker, you can look at different lenders based on their individual situation and what's going to work for them.
Yeah, it's really interesting, working at the bank directly and knowing the minimal products that you can offer a client. And then being on the broker side now, seeing how much different options there are that will suit anyone. It's definitely been a game changer. It's meant that, some clients that we have may have a loan with 3 or 4 different banks. But it essentially helps them achieve their financial goals and sets themselves and their portfolio up for success.
Yeah, 100%. And I think so many people, I bang on about this all the time. Everyone wants the lowest rate in the marketplace. And it's like, well, you're not the lowest risk to all lenders, so you can't just get the lowest rate in the marketplace. And sometimes it's going to a lender that is going to have a high rate, but their borrowing capacity or their policies is going to allow you to be able to take that next step, which is very powerful to continue going, especially if it's like building a portfolio. But sometimes it's the owner occupied, right? With certain lenders, they're like, no, I want the lowest rate. I can't buy. As soon as you go to something else, maybe a higher rate, different policy, you can make it happen.
Yeah, and especially when you are trying to access equity, every different lender will value your house differently. So sometimes you need to sacrifice a 0.1 or a 0.2% to gain that next property that you want to buy. And I think it's balancing, a low interest rate against, well, what will my portfolio look like in 5, 10, 15 years?
Yep.
It's something to not just have in your mind as the go-to thing. We'll always look for the lowest rate.
Yeah.
But essentially what we're doing is we're looking at, in these pool of lenders, who is the best lender for you and what you're currently trying to do.
Yeah.
And also balance that with a pretty good rate as well.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I see that sometimes with like past clients. They go and get a valuation. It comes in a bit short. And it's like, well, we can get a second valuation. You might have to additionally pay for that.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, I don't want to pay the $500. But if you go there, get more equity and you can go again into another property. So
there's some sacrifices that you need to make in your finances, and you need to be prepared to spend a little bit of money in some odd occasions to get to where you need to be. But, some of these options that we provide, they're not long term.
Exactly.
If you're getting on a high rate, we're not having to keep you there for 5, 10 years.
Yeah.
We can look at it as soon as 3, 6, 12 months to see what else is better out there for them.
It is short term, right? And that's if you can get into the market, LVRs drop and property prices are increasing and all the rest of it, your income might change. So many different things can change. And then all of a sudden you can get something more competitive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. What inspired you to leave, I guess, a stable job with one of the big four and go out, start a business and start Neo?
Well, other than I was sick of getting consistent income every week.
And that's what stops people taking that plunge, right?
It's hard, especially when you have a family and you are the main income earner, then you take that leap. It's been rewarding, the biggest thing prior to leaving and starting my own business, I was managing a team of 20 lenders, and I didn't want to go up in that corporate world anymore. You were still always working for someone, and it restricted you. I felt it restricted me on the service I could give, on how I could be my own person, have my own personality, and actually show that we truly care. But also offer more products, like actually be a lender that can give you a variety of options and not just one.
Not pigeonholing the client, really.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's when I started Neo. It's been, for myself, is we're always continuously learning. Because we want to continue to be the best. And, we genuinely are customer obsessed. That's what we prioritize, every interaction on.
And we were talking about this just off air before we started. It's like, you need to stand out in the industry. And this is across any industry and just customer service in general. If you can provide a high level of customer service, but then on the backside, you have the knowledge around the different products to get stuff done, like we've just been talking about. It's very powerful to stand out in the industry. Because that service is so important.
It is. And people can see through that, if you're not genuine. People will see through it. And we did not create Neo on the back of just being, product based. We want long-term relationship focused business. And
there's so many brokers out there that are just ordinary with their service.
They don't have, I think, and that's probably another part that I think every business owner in that mortgage broking space should focus on, is making sure that their service is on par exceeds anyone else in their industry. 100%. If you've got that as a goal, that will go a really long way.
For sure. And tell me a little bit about what Neo means, because I know that has a meaning. So talk about that a little bit.
So Neo is my name and my two boys' names put together. So our initials. So we've got Noah, Evan, and Oliver. But Neo also means refreshed, new. It means that, we're taking a different approach on your finances. We want it to be engaging. We don't want it to be daunting. We want to be able to show you that you can build a property portfolio and get the right lending done through us, but also in a way that is going to help you grow. And that's what we have. We have a lot of clients that come to us where, they might be in their 40s and, they've got the perception that they're never going to buy their home, right? They're never going to buy a home. They're never going to buy an investment property.
Yep.
And after an initial conversation with us, like that myth is debunked.
Yep.
They're buying their first home in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
Which is what we want.
I think that's powerful because sometimes it's just an education for people, and they just don't have it, and they maybe haven't spoken to the right person about how to make that happen as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, we still get a lot of clients that come in where they've gone to see their bank or maybe another broker that hasn't really understood what their goals are.
Yeah.
And that plays a massive impact on what they're trying to achieve, So when they come and see us, and the first thing we do is purely just go to understand what their goals are.
Yeah.
And then we work backwards, This is the goal. This is what we need to do to get to it.
Yeah. I love that. It's super important.
Yeah.
And this kind of leads into the next question I'm going to ask, and we've kind of touched on it, but what makes you, I guess, stand out from your competitors?
This is what we do day in, day out. We live and breathe lending.
Yeah.
We live and breathe the education piece behind how to build clients their property portfolios. We work with experts like yourself, in your field. I think...
I didn't pay him to say that either.
He did. Lots of money.
$50.
I'll take 20.
$20 is $20.
Exactly. Collaboration...
Yeah,
I think is a key foundation in any business. And when you find the right people that you work with, you're just setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, just having that team around you is so important because it can take you to steps far above where you thought you could.
Exactly. But when your team is working together, you've got a good buyer's agent, broker, accountant, conveyancer, whatever it is, if we're all working together, you've seen it. The process is seamless.
Yeah.
It's done without even having to think about it, because we've all got that same vision.
Yeah.
And we all represent each other's business really well.
100%.
Yeah.
I say to a lot of clients, it's like, I can do about 90% of everything for you, working with the broker, working together cohesively with that team. There's some things you're still going to need to do.
Yeah.
But as soon as you got that team around you, the transaction isn't as scary and it's not as hard as you think it is.
That's right.
So it's just important.
And that's why they come to us, right?
Yeah.
We're meant to be taking that fear away from them, the anxiety. We want them to feel relaxed. And we handle all that hard stuff behind the scenes.
I take all the grey hair for them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you think about it, imagine, how many clients we've had that things happen behind the scenes.
Oh.
Shit's going everywhere and, they would not know anything that's happened.
And that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand just the little bits and pieces that you have to organise and maintain and make sure is happening behind the scenes to keep everything flowing smoothly.
Yeah.
It is a big process if you're trying to do it yourself and you don't have that team around you, for sure.
Yeah. It just is, I think a lot of people, they're in their job, they're experts at their role.
Yeah.
They come to us because we're the experts in what we do.
Yeah.
And that's what they need to feel when they come to us.
And everyone thinks they can do it on the side. Like, you're working 40 hours a week and I can buy a property, the largest asset of my life, just casually. I'll look online and call an agent. It's like, it doesn't work like that. You simply can't. You can't do it the same way as having that team of professionals around you, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What's your core service offerings? Like, tell me, you obviously got the mortgage space, but tell me a little bit more about, I guess, the assets management, what you can help across the board with, not just like the home lending, investment lending side of things.
Yeah. So we've got obviously that core part, and then we've got our asset finance part.
Yep.
So we focus on, business owners, self-employed clients that are looking, get a vehicle under their business, consolidate some business debt, release some funds for some business funding, expand their business. Yeah. And we also offer other options as well, for self-managed super funds or trust lending, company lending, and also commercial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's so many different aspects.
Yeah.
That you can help with, right?
Yeah.
And that's something, and on a future episode, we're going to talk about, I guess, some scenarios where we've helped clients with like the self-managed super fund side of things. Yeah. And that's just another dimension of lending and being able to expand your asset base, right?
Absolutely.
That people have no idea about.
No. And that's the interesting part. You know, there's so much different ways that you can build wealth with property.
Yeah.
So it'll be good to deep dive into how we've helped others.
Yeah, 100%. Where do you see Neo in 18 months? And you can't answer it on an island somewhere drinking a pina colada or some shit.
On an island somewhere drinking pina coladas.
If you like pina coladas.
Is this why you're a buyer's agent? 'Cause your singing's so good?
Yeah, probably. Probably. It's not my forte, that's for sure.
You know, we've been doing this for just over 12 months now.
Yeah.
And we've already got a team of 4.
Yeah.
It's finding the right balance of, you know, growing our business, expanding, leveling up, but also maintaining that service. So, you know, if we can find, you know, 1 or 2 more brokers and a few more support staff over the next 18 months, I think that will be putting us in the right position for growth.
Yeah.
But it just comes down to, you know, making sure that, you know, every so often we're reviewing our processes, reviewing what we're doing, making sure that we've got the right level of, you know, income growth and everything to make sure that we do expand. Hopefully we're buying a next office in 18 months, you know, to have a more, just a larger HQ, a larger office where we can, you know, really expand. Yeah. But we want to expand the right way. We don't want to just do it for the sake of it.
Yeah. And that's what I'm doing at the moment as well. And I've spoke about this to a few people recently. It's like, for me, I don't want to be the biggest.
Yeah.
I still want it to be boutique, grow the team, but do it, I guess, more organically and not just flick a switch overnight and you double.
And if expanding means dropping the level of service you provide, it's not worth it.
No, 100%. Yeah. I'd rather, keep it boutique and really focus on providing that service throughout the piece. So, and it's crucial to bring on those people that align with the culture.
Absolutely.
And what you're doing. We spoke about this a little bit before.
Yeah, culture is, you know, a key foundation piece to making sure that you can grow and you can expand. If everyone in your team already, you know, is achieving what we need to, then it just sets us up for growth as well, you know?
And if you can get that culture piece right, the staff, the team right, they're naturally going to provide that service back to the client. So,
of course,
I think, to provide that level of service to your client, you have an obligation to make sure that culture's right. And we've worked in industries where it is more corporate and there's some, you know, there's some shit that goes on and it's not the right fit for the culture, or it's like, we've been doing this for the last 20, 30 years. This is how we do it. And it's too hard to change, where there's always ways to improve.
Yeah, we need to continue to adapt. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. It's always changing, especially in what you're doing in the finance industry. There's so many different things that change all the time.
Yeah.
And it might not be like a big change, but it's just rate changes. So you need to look at different lenders or whatever it is.
Rate changes, policy changes, you know, new elections, you know, that has some impacts as well on how we lend. So, you know, it's just always important that we're on top of it.
Yeah, for sure. What do you like most about being a business owner?
Honestly, as much as being your own boss, you think that you're going to be working a lot less and you've got a lot more time.
It's a fucking myth. Let me tell you.
I don't think I've ever worked so hard, but you know, every minute of work you're putting in, it's benefiting yourself. It's benefiting, you know, the people that you're doing it for, your family, your kids. And you know that when you're creating something that, you know, you get a 5-star Google review. You get an email on settlement day from someone, you know, thanking you. You know,
it's the little stuff.
You know, the jobs that we do are, you know, finding people properties, but beyond that, we're helping them achieve something bigger. You know, and that's the one thing that makes me really happy to do what I do as a business owner. And that's why I got into this space.
100%.
We want to go on a journey with them.
Yeah. That's what one of the, I guess, philosophies I have is I want a client to be able to look back in 20 years' time and say, I'm so glad that I work with Casey and he's been able to help me achieve this.
He can't sing, but he can find confidence.
I can dance, though. Have you seen me dance?
You definitely cannot dance.
Or box. 100% loss rate. Undefeated on the bag, but
exactly.
I think that's something important as a business owner as well. And I started the business to ultimately have some more freedom. But I think those early years, and it's like, fuck, I'm nearly 4 years deep and like I'm still working a lot right now.
Yeah.
But it's to deliver a level of service. And as time goes on, that is going to change once the team builds. But it's like you don't decide to become a business owner and in 6 months' time, you're working 3 hours a day. That's not how it works. You have to put in a lot of work at the start. And yes, you're getting far more out of it than if you were to do the same amount of work in a salary role. But it's not just an instantaneous thing.
You know, we are those high achievers. We want to be able to, you know, make a difference, make an impact.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are people out there that, you know, are self-employed and want to have that lifestyle business, but I think we're just on a different trajectory. You know, we want to achieve bigger, better things year in, year out.
Yeah.
And you would have seen in your, like, being 4 years, how much it's evolved.
Oh, yeah.
Over time.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, building out the team's great, but it's still doing more volume than what we were doing to start, but still maintaining that level of service. And that probably leads into my next question, which is what is one of the biggest challenges as a business owner? And there's a fucking lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do I start, Casey? Is this my psychology?
Is this a therapy session? I'm giving this shit for free.
Well, I think it's, you know, balancing business growth. And like what I said before, balancing the growth with keeping the service level there, you know. There's always going to be challenges that are thrown our way. You know, we've seen over the years with COVID and, you know, rate hikes and cost of living and inflation and all those things. But I think if you're open to adapting and changing your business model, you've got to be swift. You know, you've got to be ready to move in the direction that the market's moving. Because if you don't, you're going to get stuck. You're going to get lost. And then your clients are going to feel it as well. Yeah. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely, it's a balancing act. It's walking that tightrope.
Yeah.
And not dropping anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not breaking my wall.
Yeah. Sorry, wall.
So I won't say who the lender was, but someone that I worked for, that company there was a period of time where they weren't keeping up with automation technology at the time and they were really behind the ball.
Yeah.
And although they provided really competitive rates, because of their processes and not keeping up with where things were going, you saw a loss of business because they were going elsewhere with other lenders where that could be kind of kept up. Yeah. So yeah, I think you're always needing to pivot, right?
Yeah.
And keep up.
Exactly. And I think it goes to what we said before, right? Do you want to have a really hard time, you know, with a lender?
Yeah.
You know, and to get the best rate, that's probably going to be only a 0.05% cheaper interest rate.
Yeah.
That's going to restrict your lending.
Yeah.
It's not going to help with growth. Difficulty managing your funds online.
Yeah.
Or do you want to trust that we're going to give you a balance of a really good interest rate, good products, good offset accounts with it, but also be able to grow your portfolio as well. So, I mean, everyone's different, you know. Sometimes they just want to have that one property, which is fine as well, you know, which is fine. But I think that's why you use those professionals so we can weigh up your options for you, and then you can make that informed choice.
Yeah, 100%. I had a client recently. So they wanted the lowest rate, right? Keep repayments low. But because of the increased expenses and stuff, if they went out and got a little bit of a high rate, but they were able to cash out like 100K, right?
Yeah.
They've got this buffer there. Who gives a fuck if your rate is 0.5% higher because you've cashed out, you've utilized some of that equity portion for the finance piece, which can absorb some of that. Exactly. And now you've got some liquid cash for a worst case scenario on a rainy day, right? So it's that knowledge piece, and just don't get always focused on the rate.
And, you know, you look at 0.5%, you know, dollar-wise.
Yeah.
What's that going to be, $100 a month?
Yeah.
And if you're able to access equity and buy a really good investment property, you know, that $100 a month that you're saving now, is that really going to trump building hundreds of thousands worth of growth in a property?
It's crazy, hey?
Yeah.
was like, we had a client a little while ago. It's like, let's push that budget just 10K higher.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do it, but it's like, if we break that down 30 years and that 10K extra, I'll give you that fucking $5 per week, right?
Yeah.
So it's just those little mindset shifts as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it for your first podcast.
Yeah, it's been good.
And yeah, it's good to talk about who you are, where you're from, and just talk about business related stuff as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
No, it's not.
It's hard. That's why a lot of people
when we
don't
get to
do
work
it.
together, it is sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
All the time. All the time. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Hope everyone
Appreciate it.
enjoyed.
Yeah, enjoy.
See ya.
See ya.